We're live.
Good evening. I'd like to call the Trotwood-Madison City School District work session, November 5th, 2020 at 5:30 p.m. to order. Ms. Allen, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Mr. Andrews.
Yes.
Mr. Square.
I can't tell if you called my name or not. The phone is breaking up really bad.
Mr. Scares.
But yes.
Mrs. Jeter Freeman.
Yes.
Hello?
Mrs. Bozeman.
Yes.
And Ms. Moore.
Yes, the meeting has now been called to order. I now need an opportunity for our Vice President to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and everyone is on mute, please.
Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next up, I now need a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
So moved.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any changes, additions, addendums? Being none, Ms. Allen, will you please call the roll?
Yes, Mrs. Bozeman.
Yes.
Mrs. Jeter Freeman.
Yes.
Mr. Andrews.
Yes.
Mr. Squares.
Yes.
And Ms. Moore.
Yes, the agenda has been adopted. If everybody could, that's on the platform.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Is it just my phone that's freezing?
It must be, Mr. Scaris. If you want to go out and come back in, that might help. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, I can hear you now.
Thank you. Also, if everybody on the platform could please keep your phones on mute. And if you have any background noises, we would really appreciate it if you could turn those off. That way we don't have any issues throughout the meeting. Thank you. First up is the treasurer's report. Mrs. Allen?
Yes, I have one item this evening just for information. It's approval for the meeting minutes from September 26th, 2020, special meeting October 1st, 2020, work session October 15th, 2020, regular meeting. And that's just for information only.
Okay. Any questions, board? Okay. Thank you, Ms. Allen. We appreciate it. Next up are the superintendent's report. Dr. Cosby, please.
Yes, good evening, everyone. I just have three things tonight for information. A is approval of the Miami County ESC contract for Title I services at St. Christopher's. And B is approval of a proposed extension and amendment to sponsorship, marketing, and naming rights agreement that we hold with Miami Valley Hospital from October 18th, 2020 through October 18th of 2023. And then C is our personnel agenda, which tonight will be presented by Dr. Davis.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Cosby. Dr. Davis.
Hello, everyone. How are you?
Good evening.
Good. And so I'll jump right into the agenda. First, we have our A agenda, which is for our certified personnel. We have a resignation. The second section is for certified changes. This is where our staff members have continued their education, and so they're moving to the next column in their education. The next section is for new staff where we're hiring. We had a grant in the curriculum department that allowed us to get a reading lab teacher at Westbrook Village in order to provide equitable services amongst our buildings. And then the art teacher that we're hiring is to replace a staff member that resigned after that July 10th date. The next section in terms of our supplementals, those are for our resident educator mentors, as well as we have some winter coaches. Section A5 is for our building subs, and we are happy that we've hired 2, and we have 3 more who are in the works to go. So they are in the process of being onboarded, and these are building subs who are going to be permanently assigned to a particular building. They will be in that building all the time, and they will be serving in that building as a commitment from now until the end of the year. It won't be where they're going to be working for a couple days like a traditional sub. These individuals are going to be assigned to that particular building. Okay, there we go. My camera wasn't working. I apologize. I've been clicking on it, but it wouldn't come on.
I'm like, where is she?
I've been trying to click it. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
And then, like I said, we have these 2 already secured, and we're excited about that. And we have 3 more in the works who we should be able to put on by the November 19th agenda. Our B section is for our classified personnel. We have several resignations, but luckily right underneath that, we have several hires. So we were able to replace most of the positions where we've had the resignations. And then we had a correction. This individual is a coach who we placed on the agenda prior to. However, he was not able to complete his obligation for the entire season. He only participated in the playoff games, and therefore his salary was prorated. So we're not giving him that original amount that was listed. We prorated him for the time that he worked. And then the last section of Section B is for our coaches, and these are again for our winter coaches for our winter sports. That's it.
Oh, okay. Okay, great. I'm going to open it up for discussion. Board, do you have any questions? Okay, being none, Dr. Davis, I'm sorry.
No, ma'am, I said yes, ma'am.
Dr. Davis, could you explain our mentor program?
Sure. And
yes.
So scrolling back up to it on my screen, one moment. And so in the district, when we have new teachers, they are considered resident educators. And by the state of Ohio, they have to go through a 4-year residency program as a requirement by the Ohio Department of Education in order for us to secure those individuals and for them to move from their resident educator license to a 5-year professional license. They must have a mentor assigned to assist them through the 4 years of their residency. And so these individual listed are mentors who are assisting with those individuals. And so they complete their year 1 residency, year 2, year 3, and year 4. And each year there are different qualifications and specifications that they have to meet in order to progress to that next year.
Okay, wonderful. I'm sorry, go ahead, Mr. Scares.
I apologize.
Oh.
So the mentors is something that is required by the state for new teachers.
Uh-huh.
Is the compensation for those mentors something that is required?
I am not familiar with it being required in terms of the state designating a particular amount that we have to pay for those mentors. However, most districts in the state of Ohio do compensate those mentors for the time that they are devoting to those mentees.
Is there an average that is usually, that's recommended from district to district?
I have not seen an average recommended. However, in the few districts that I have been at and from working at the Ohio Department of Education, $500 is a comparable fee. It's not excessive according to what others are receiving for that same work.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and Dr. Davis, what does a program look like, these teacher mentors? Do they work with them every day?
In year 1 and 2, those are your mentoring years. And so they receive focused mentoring. They meet with them weekly, and then they meet with them monthly in terms of filling out. It's a focused mentoring spreadsheet that they have to complete. And so They are coaching them on different aspects as they're going through those first 2 years. Year 3 is when they're taking their RESA, which is the Resident Educator Summative Assessment. And during that year, they are working intensively with their mentor to help get them ready to take that assessment. That assessment has to be passed in order to get their permanent licensure. And so during that 3rd year, they have to videotape a lesson. They have to go through the different educator standards and make sure that they're meeting those, all preparing them for that lesson that they have to submit. That lesson is submitted to ODE in January, and then they're scored, and then they find out their score. Once they pass that, they move into year 4. Year 4 is the leadership year, and during year 4, they have to complete 2 leadership projects. One project of their choice to help their professional growth, and the other project is a project that's designated to help enhance their school community. And so they're working very closely with their administrator during that year 4. That year 4 is more of an independent year for them to demonstrate the leadership skills that they have developed. And at the end of the year in May, each one of those different groups submit information to myself and the committee, and then we check off on that and then progress them in ODE to go to that next year.
Great. I want to thank you, Dr. Davis. I understand that you volunteered to coach and mentor for 4 of our teachers.
Yes, when they get to year 4, there's no requirement that a mentor is assigned to them. However, they do need some support and some coaching and helping them be able to be independent. They have to work with their administrator closely and helping to facilitate that communication between them and their administrator. These are new teachers who, most of them, if they're just progressing through the program as it is designed, this is their 4th year in education, and they may not have had a lot of time or experience working with their administrator. And so coaching them on how to have that communication, being able to look at their goals and their professional growth plan, and being able to pick 2 projects that are designed to enhance them, something that they're going to benefit from, as well as something that's going to be beneficial to the community and the school that they're working with.
That's awesome. Mr. Scaris?
Thank you. So the requirement from the state is that the new teachers must be mentored, but is there a requirement from the state that says teachers must be the mentors?
Yes, they have to be mentored by a peer.
So whether we paid them or not, they would still have to do it.
No, excuse me, this is Janet.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
The rate for mentors is bargained with the association, and it's part of the collective bargaining agreement, which is also typical with all other districts.
Okay. Are all of the districts usually overspending like we are?
I don't know how to answer that question.
I would like to try to answer that question. I would say, Mr. Scaris, that, we have a hard time encouraging, students to come into education. And these are people who have already completed the 4 years. And if they don't get, the 4 years of college, if they don't get through this and pass these tests and these, the videotape of their classroom and all that, then they run the risk of not receiving their 5-year license. It's a lot of, I use the word hoops because people say it, a lot of hoops that people have to jump to, move into being an educator and teaching. And so we feel like it's definitely worth it to have good mentors for them to sort of ensure that we can keep these teachers. It's very hard to, find teachers right now. You're going to hear a little later, we're struggling with subs. Those are people that have to have their bachelor's. And so we're just trying to do everything we can to encourage, these people to stay on, so they have that mentor, someone to talk to, but also to make sure that they learn and they're prepared and they're ready when the end of that 4 years is up, so that they do stay on in education. So I do think that it's really not overspending, it's just encouraging for these new teachers. And it's a thank you, to our, and as Ms. Cooper said, we really don't have any choice at this point. It's in our agreement, but even if it wasn't, I think that it's important to show people that we appreciate them taking time out of their busy schedules to, do work.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Miss Allen, could you please share with the board what those costs are, just so that everybody is clear?
I definitely can. I calculated it would cost us $14,500 for 29 mentors at, 29 mentees at $500 a piece. So the total was $14,500.
Does that come out of general fund?
It does. But we're also looking at the possibility of finding some grant dollars to underwrite that, either partially or totally. So initially we had budgeted that money out of the general fund, but we are looking at the possibility of that money being paid from a grant.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Miss Allen. I really appreciate that information.
You're welcome.
Additionally, Dr. Davis,
Yes, ma'am.
on the permanent subs, that is awesome. That especially in this climate, let's just put it that during this time, we've got staff that are going to be out. We have things that are going to come up. So to have permanent subs, I think that is going to be very advantageous for this district. And now we have 2, but you're looking at how many more? 4 more, maybe, did you say?
The 2 that we already have approved, so they've completed all their onboarding, and that's why they're on the agenda. They're ready to go. I think one of them has already actually started, and we have 3 that are in the process of completing their paperwork. Hopefully they finish everything in the next couple of weeks so that we can place them as an amendment on our next agenda, so they'll be ready to go also. And so we are trying our best. We have a couple buildings that have a higher need, and so we're trying to assign them to the buildings that have that higher need, where they have multiple teachers out already and are already struggling, assigning them to the buildings in terms of their need. And so we're hoping to get at least 1 for every building and then start giving 2. We had committed to providing 2 to each building, and so we have 2 assigned that are in the works. So we have 2 buildings that already have 2, and then working to give 1 for everyone else, and then filling in as we go.
That sounds like a great plan. Any other questions for Dr. Davis or the superintendent regarding the personnel agenda? Okay, being none, thank you so much, Dr. Davis. We really appreciate your report.
You're welcome.
Next up, item 4, discussion items and updates. First of all, we have a monthly presentation from school buildings, and it says Middle School Equity Fellows. So, Dr. Cosby.
Yes, I'd like to introduce to you my middle school principal, Daniel Gibson. I'm sure you all know him, but we have a program that's been in the district for 2 years, and the middle school is in year 2. Right now, 4 of our buildings are involved, and it's called Equity Fellows. Mr. Gibson, would you do me a favor and introduce your team as well? They're going to do a presentation to let you know what they're doing. They've been lauded by this. We've been told how great they are, and so I wanted you to find out what it is that they're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, Superintendent. Hello, board. I have on here now Miss Watts and Miss Carla Clay Alexander, and I'm not sure if Miss Newsom is here, so I want to introduce the team. I'll let them talk and introduce themselves. Your team want to go ahead?
Hi, I'm Miss Watts. I teach at the middle school. I teach STEM, and this is our 2nd year in Equity Fellow. This is my 8th year in the district, and I'm a proud Trotwood alum.
Yay!
Hello, I'm Carla Alexander. I'm also at the middle school as the restorative justice specialist. So this is my 3rd year in the district, and I love working at the middle school, and I really like the work that we are doing with our book club.
Thank you. Thank you. Hey, Luke, if you want to bring up the PowerPoint and I'll kind of go through it. I know the board meetings can be a lot, but we'll just go through a little bit and then I'll let my team take it over from there. So as he's putting that up, I'll just start a little bit. We've been in we were working with Learn to Earn and the ESC, and all of last year we kind of met with other buildings as well, DECA, Northmont, some other buildings, and we kind of looked at what was preventing some of our students from succeeding. So we kind of looked at the data, math data, literacy data, suspension data. We looked at all of those things. We dove kind of deep into the data, and from that, our team created some strategies that we really wanted to try to tackle that would not only benefit us, but if every school in the county took an interest in tearing down some of these things that were preventing students from succeeding as a county, we felt we would do better. So it was kind of a partnership with a lot of other buildings as well. One of the objectives was to definitely decrease suspensions. We looked at our suspension data, and then we also really wanted to increase achievement amongst our African American students. So part of the work centers around that. If you look at the strategies, we have 3 strategies on the PowerPoint. Luke, if you're on the PowerPoint, that's PowerPoint number 2. Well, I'll just keep going. So strategy 1 was to just ensure that all our staff was using effective teaching strategies for diverse learners. Then we wanted to make sure everybody understood that we all kind of come to the table with implicit biases, and those implicit biases can't impact the education of our students. So we wanted to make our staff aware of those things, so not only look at the systems that we have in place as a building, but as a district that can sometimes prevent students from achieving at a high rate. So that's kind of where this started. And then I'll let Ms. Watts and Ms. Carla Clay kind of talk about the survey and kind of what we did along that and what the book study looks like here at the building.
Okay, I'm not sure. I don't know if Luke was supposed to do the presentation. I'm sorry, Luke. But part of our strategy 2 was.
Sorry, I'm here, guys. I've got a little kid in the background. I was trying to keep that out. Can you see the screen?
We see your screen.
Yeah, I don't see anything. Okay, there you go.
So fast, go forward. The next slide, yeah. So for the first phase of strategy 2, we hosted an intercultural development workshop. It was presented by Dr. Amy Anderson. She is the Associate Provost for Global and Intercultural Affairs at UD. She introduced the concept of intercultural development continuum. This continuum describes a set of knowledge, attitudes, and skill sets, orientations toward cultural differences and commonalities. The continuum goes from the monocultural mindset of denial and polarization through the transitional orientation of minimization, and then on to the global mindsets of acceptance and adaptation. Just keep going through it. You can keep going. I'm sorry. So then we looked at how does this continuum affect our workplace environment when we look at diversity, and when we look at diversity and the denials. If we have denial in our organization, click. You can keep clicking, Luke.
Yes, ma'am. I'm trying to figure it out. I'm sorry.
That's okay. If we have denial in our organization, diversity is ignored, it's excluded, it's disrespected, it's unheard. And this minimization, if we have minimization in our organization, this is where that privilege we see that we've talked about over the summertime. If we have acceptance and adaptation in our organization, Luke? Yes. Diversity is heard and diversity is included in value. So she introduced these concepts to us, and then we all took a survey as a staff. And so we have the results of that survey to see where we fell on this continuum. Keep going, Luke. Yeah, you have the old slide. I'm sorry. We made some. There it is, right there. So the dark blue is our actual where we actually failed. We had 61% of our staff in the minimization. We actually had 21% in the polarized mindset, and we had 8% down there in denial. The other light blue bar showed that we want to be, our perceived percent, where we want to be. We all want to be, 80% of us wanted to be at least in acceptance. So after the survey, we did do some individual reflections. We did some group discussions, and we talked about where we want to go from here. And so this is the second phase of our book study. Of our strategy 2, which is the book study.
And our book study, which we are using to help us to grow, to get to that more of that acceptance level. As you can see here, it says 4 white folks who teach in the hood and the rest of y'all too. The book was purchased this summer for our Trotwood Book Club, and our equity team, which consists of course, Mr. Gibson, myself, Ms. Watson, Ms. Newsome, we all read the book this summer. Mr. Gibson had already read the book, but we were kind of hesitant, just to be honest, we were just kind of hesitant as far as the title, because it's kind of like, wow, are we sure we really want to proceed with this book? And is it going to meet the needs of our building? So as we began to read, we noticed that the book is attention getting. And as we continued to read, we realized the writings of his realistic concepts was easy to understand and easy to apply to the teaching concepts that we want to improve in. So our book study is every other week and for an hour. And we have divided our group into 9 groups, which consist of certified and classified staff. We also have pre-reading questions. We have chapter reading questions with vocabulary and suggestions for activities that relates to those topics. We do have group roles that are defined, such as facilitating, to give everyone a chance to facilitate if they're comfortable. And there is also an overview of the table of contents that was on the slide that you can look at later, since it's not there anymore. What I wanted to share was what I like most about the book study was when, I'm sorry, I'm trying to drink some water here, sorry. But when we realize and we see ourselves in the writing of those areas in which we need to improve in, it's really an aha moment, and that helps us to see areas where we need to grow in and improve in. And what's also great about the book study is when staff say, hey, I really saw myself in that chapter, and I didn't realize I was exhibiting those behaviors with students. So it's also, kind of pull our chain to look at different ways that we can improve in our reactions and relationships and teaching concepts, if you will, with students. So I'm always excited to talk about our book study. I'm looking forward to the future chapters that we are moving into, such as co-teaching, cosmopolitanism, and code switching. So I'm looking forward to those chapters to discuss with our staff. So hopefully, if you haven't read the book, you can get it and enjoy it like we do. Ms. Watts or Mr. Gibson, anything else you guys want to say about the book?
No, I just want to thank my team. I appreciate you ladies showing up and going through that. Thank you very much. Any questions about the book study, I'll answer those from the board or anybody. I wish we're not in a traditional school to see the impacts that this book study, but in the conversations that I'm having with staff, it's pretty powerful when they reflect on, after the chapters and realize sometimes you do things because you just always done them, but that doesn't necessarily, that's best practice or what's best for the students that we serve. So those things are being kind of powerful.
Thank you, Mr. Gibson and team. I really appreciate this. We were asked by the board, I was asked to re-implement this again, having the different buildings to do presentations. And so we're going to try to do that at each of our once a month, at the work session meetings. I would also like to bring up, or really sort of continue our re-entry implementation information. I need to update you on how things are going at this point. I know that you are receiving notifications, as we get cases of COVID, and those numbers, just like across Montgomery County and Ohio right now, are continually going up. But I'm not sure if you understand the impact that is having on how things are working. So at the middle school and high school, we have had the most people having to go out on quarantine. So it's not so much the number of cases that we've received, but it's the people who get impacted and have to go out on quarantine. And so we end up with quite a few. I think, for example, today there were 13 people out at the middle school. Now, they weren't all because of COVID contact. Some were, but also you remember it's this time of year where people are also getting ill. And so their illnesses and things like that. So the number is higher than it would have been, which is one of the reasons that we decided to look into having those permanent substitutes. That was like an answer to that question, what are we going to do? And we have 13 people out at the middle school, 13, 14, and then we have the same number at the high school. So far, we've been fortunate with the younger grades. They have not had as many staff members at this point impacted, even though we have had some cases and we have had some student cases. What is happening? These things are not happening actually in the buildings, but people are getting the cases, are actually getting the virus when they're out, at activities that they attend. I'm not sure if we've seen the Halloween numbers yet. I don't know. I hope that, people did take precautions and maybe we won't see a spike, but we all know Thanksgiving is coming. We know that Christmas is coming, and those are times traditionally when people do tend to get together. And even though there's a lot of guidance out there that suggests that we shouldn't, of course, if we do and we end up with more numbers than we have now, that can be problematic. Of course, the good news is that people go out for 14 days, they do come back. So, it is the potential for the ebb and flow of what's going on. I have also received information, emails, conversations from staff members about the concern in the community. I received a long email today from a parent who is homeschooling her child, but she's a nurse and she's very concerned about what is happening, with us as she watches the numbers go up. I assured her that, in fact, we are still maintaining all, the 6 feet distancing, and we are having everyone masked, and we're doing the best we can to control these things. But I think the concern is that some of this is out of our control. And the numbers in Trotwood did not end up being as high for kids coming back as I think we had anticipated. So in some of our buildings, we have classrooms with very few students in them. They can range from 2 to 8 is a high number. 8 is a high number. I was at the high school one day and they had like 10 kids in a class, and it was like, yay, so our numbers are not as high. And actually that has worked to our benefit. In one of the buildings, they told me they were able to cover their sub issue by combining, the classes. So as we get into this discussion time, I would like to get some feedback and just get some thoughts from the board about if you're hearing things, if you have any concerns about the fact that flu season's coming up and there is, concern. We were on my superintendent's call today, and Jeff Cooper from the health department was there. They do anticipate that the numbers will continue to rise as we move into holiday season, cold and flu season. Like I said, at this point, we are managing. So, I'm not asking that we change what our plan is, but I do think we may want to have a discussion about what are our thoughts on this, what options are we willing to look into, and where we are with that.
Thank you, Dr. Cosby. I'm going to open it up for discussion with our board. I'll start with you, Mr. Andrews.
Yeah, I have a question. As students have to go out or staff have to go out that haven't necessarily tested positive, but as you do your back tracing, they have to go out and quarantine. How is that transition looking as they have to go out, and then as they pass through the 14 days and come back? Are you noticing any difficulties for students, particularly with their academics, as they have to go back and forth from in school to out for quarantine and back in?
We have basically a lot of students in our 10th grade program did go out on quarantine, and it wasn't that they had a positive case, but they were in communication with someone who did. And those students are still within that 14-day limit, so we haven't actually seen it. They are, though, being taught. They're going home. They still are getting back. And I do believe the fact that we did our first 9 weeks remotely made that piece seamless. Now, like you said, if those students choose to come back in, and what I found from a couple of my principals is that some people are choosing not to return. Some are just not showing up. And so that's why I think our numbers are lower than we anticipated. They're doing virtual. They chose to stay home. So I will be watching that to see how that transition happens. And I will keep you posted on that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Andrews. Mr. Scarce.
Thank you. I have a lot that I feel, probably only a little that I'll discuss, but I think we need to continue with the plan as normal. And mitigate what we can mitigate when we can do it. My son's preschool provider is in a house with maybe 10 or 11 very small children and has managed to mitigate that system probably since April. And so I still consistently and continue to believe that our staff is doing a great job keeping our children safe. And I think we need to stay the course.
Thank you for your input.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Mr. Scarce. Ms. Jeter Franklin.
I guess I'm hearing some concerns with staff and making sure that we're contact tracing for those students or staff that, particularly students that have tested positive. And I know our protocols, I've read those, and I'm sure that we're going through, but it's just the reassurance. So I think it's good that the students do get to go in person, especially for those students that need that extra help that parents can't provide for students that have additional needs. So I think just making sure that we have all the protocols. And I think the other part is making sure that we're sensitive and that our administrators know their staff and who have, special conditions, and being sensitive to each other, to special situations that they might have. So I think it's a little time for grace and understanding where each other are coming from and what people are dealing with. I think that's the biggest thing. And to be mindful to look out for each other for that mental part for our staff that might be, they might not be saying much, but it's a time that we actually do be sensitive and mindful of what our staff and our students as well are going through.
Yes, I appreciate what you're saying, and because you're right, anxiety, it doesn't mean that you have this, that you have COVID or that it's near you. You can still be afraid about what's going on. I don't know why I'm getting that back.
Yeah, we're just getting some feedback from it.
Okay, from somewhere. Okay, but I do understand what you're saying, and I think we are going to, try to be even more understanding. And again, that is a piece of the concern. I agree with Mr. Scarce. I think our teachers are excellent. I think that our maintenance department, custodial staff, everyone is doing all those things properly. As I said before, we're not getting COVID by things happening at school. It's not being transmitted at school. But to your point, it doesn't change the fact that when we have to make those notifications, and ODE requires us to, it is unnerving for people. And if you walk past someone and you think, oh my goodness, could I have gotten it by walking past someone? So we have to keep reminding, and we have been doing that, of what close contact means, the 6 feet distance, and make sure you have your mask and try not to be with someone for 15 cumulative minutes. Because you're right, it is a scary thing. No one knows how they will be impacted by it. I think we know a lot of people, are asymptomatic, and luckily that seems to be a lot of the young children. But we also all probably know someone who has had underlying conditions and did not fare as well. So I think that is a part of the fear. We will continue to, as you said, talk about these things and all. I know we still have a couple of people to hear from.
One other thing.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ms. Jeter.
One other thing. The other districts that are doing blended, are the staff in the buildings 5 days a week? And because I think I thought we initially were going to have a day for the staff to be home so that we could clean the building because all of the students were coming in. And I don't know if we're clean, and I imagine we're cleaning it after school and on weekends, but what does that look like?
Yes, that's something that we can, consider, as there are many things that we can consider. And the Fridays, initially we had the work from home, on Fridays. Now we're using our Friday, and we did that because we were only running first shift with our custodial staff. So they had to have that time doing a first shift to clean. So it was that Friday. So now we have our second shift, custodians working. And so that's how we've been able to clean after the students and staff leave on Fridays. Fridays are used for professional development, for planning, for, the opportunity to collaborate, is why we did bring in the staff. But I hear what you're saying. And as we, start to look at things and consider, is there anything we can do that might, ease some of the fear and frustration that people feel, that might be something that we can consider.
Thank you. Vice President Bozeman?
Yes, I would definitely echo what Miss Jeter Freeman was saying. Obviously, we want to be empathic. So if that means that we need to do more cleaning to make everyone feel safer, then we need to do that. If that means we need to take children's temperatures when they get in, we need to do that. I just want everyone to be safe, feel safe, and I do think we need to stay the course.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was just going to address the children's temperature. We did talk to, the district nurse, and he goes to get information from other nurses and things. And that is not best practices, but I don't think that it hurts. And I can, of course, ask that question because it's one thing whether it's considered best practice and another, well, does it hurt? And even if the only reason is to, like you said, make us feel better, that everyone around us we know has been checked, then it may be worth that time that it takes to do it, even if that's what the outcome of it is. So.
For sure, because we want everyone to feel better and comfortable coming into that environment. And so if it takes a couple extra minutes, then it's worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Ms. Bozeman. Appreciate it. I echo the sentiments of my board as a whole. I do have a question, and our attorney might have to weigh in on this. When we started school, did we have our staff tested?
As a whole, you're asking me? No, we did not.
Is there a reason we chose not to do that?
I think it was more, I don't know. So Janet may have to weigh in whether or not we could mandate it. I know some people chose to do it, but I know a lot of people have not chosen to do that. I know now if you do get tested, you're required to, notify public health, or if you test positive, then they let us know. But yes, we did not. And Janet, can you respond?
There was not a recommendation from the health department that all teachers be tested before school started.
So there just wasn't a recommendation, but we could have.
Well, you always can do that. You would have had to have paid for it.
Yeah. I'm just thinking that when we talk about keeping everybody safe, the deal is there are people who haven't been exposed and they're probably positive and they're walking around because they're asymptomatic and they don't know it. I don't think that there's ever the possibility that people would intentionally come to work knowing that they could put others at risk. So I'm just asking, and I've talked to some boards across the country, some have when their school started early on and some didn't. But again, I just want to make sure that every precaution is taken because we don't want to put anybody at risk. And people have been surprised that they're positive because they're not feeling bad at all. Additionally, with the temperature checks, I know it might be a recommendation, but I think, like Ms. Bozeman said, to give the extra sense of security, that's very, very important. I mean, just sometimes the little things can make a huge difference in your workday and the protocols that we have around that workday. So that might be something, even though everybody didn't have a temperature, but still, who knows? Furthermore, COVID right now, it doesn't seem to be going anywhere. People are very uncertain. I spoke with other districts, and I don't know if this will give you any solace or not, but a lot of districts, when they started at the beginning of the school year, their highest peaks were in the first 2 to 3 weeks. And this was 5 school districts. Okay. After that, it seemed to flatten. Different counties seem to have different recommendations along the lines of contact Tracy. I mean, some districts is your kid to the right of you and the student to the left of you and the one in front of you, but the one behind doesn't have to be quarantined. So I just thought all that was really interesting. Okay. So I know it's county by county. In addition to that, I believe that what we should do is to take some responsibility on our own to stay healthy and well. And what I mean by that is we have to wear a PPE and we have to wear it correctly. I mean, we want to make sure that we keep each other safe and our students safe. And I say that because I'm in the healthcare world and I've seen people be very lax with it. And I just wanted to reiterate that. That's so important. It's like our policy we had on students wearing a belt. It's okay. Yeah, they're wearing a belt, but it's around their hips and not on their waist. That doesn't help us. That doesn't encourage the type of behavior that we want. So I think that's important. So we have to be diligent ourselves to keep each other safe. The board is very serious about monitoring what's going on in the district. When we see those alerts, we cringe. I mean, we're just like, another one. Okay, it was 7, now it's 11. We really do. We cringe every time we see that. One of the things I think we have to understand too is, Dr. Cosby, I apologize. I have not looked at how we are reporting, but I know that in my conversations with other districts, according to the state, we have to report all of the exposures as well as quarantines, that sort of thing. But they are being very diligent with explaining, like what you just said. A lot of the contacts, they're not happening necessarily in the building. Kind of sort of like if I'm married, my husband has COVID, and now I'm having to quarantine. But I'm not quarantining because I contracted something from the district, okay? Even secondary exposures, such as an exposure to an exposure. So somebody has been exposed, and now I'm exposed to that person. So it's like twice removed. There are a lot of complications when we look at how all of this plays out. But what I can say in other districts that started in person 5 days a week school in August is that first of all, they're saying that a lot of the times when their kids have to be quarantined for the 14 days, a lot of those kids are tested and they're negative. That is really, I think that's really enlightening. In addition to that, managing this is going to be a task, but I do believe that we can. But we need to look at a baseline where this district cannot operate based on the number of staff that's out. And what I mean by that is, and I'm not just talking teachers, I'm talking bus drivers. I'm talking anybody who could possibly be at risk or be exposed, because we all know that is a possibility. And when that happens, we just need to have a contingency plan. If we say, gosh, when our district as a whole gets to 20%, we won't have any staff, or 30%, or 15%, or whatever that percentage is, and we can't manage, and it might just be building by building. If this building gets to 40% or 30%, then we contact parents, we communicate, and we say, today is going to be virtual, or this week is going to be virtual for the next, if we need to do that based on staffing. Just look at that overall, because you said people are out. I was talking to a board member today, 65 of their teachers were out.
Wow.
Okay. 65. All right. So what they did was they made the accommodations to do that week virtual, okay, because their teachers were out and they were looking at how they were staggered for the 14-day quarantine. So even with bus drivers, if we get to the point, and I don't know if Mr. Howard's here with us, but if we get to the point where we have too many bus drivers out and they can't do the routes, we just need to have a contingency plan that maybe we contact parents and say, hey, it might be they have a choice where their kid can go virtual, or they can bring them to school and pick them up. I mean, just something in place, because as we get through flu season and Thanksgiving, when everybody's going to be around their families, and the holidays, we just need to be very proactive in how we're going to operate as a district, as long as we are doing in-person learning.
Yes, I appreciate what you said. We have started those conversations in my exec cabinet meetings about what would be the thing that would trigger, remote learning, would trigger a building going out, or, grade level, or different things like that. As I said, almost a lot of our 10th grade students end up going home because of the number of teachers who were teaching on a certain day with students. So I will get that developed with them, with my staff, and we will get back with you with a plan. I did want to say, I think the dilemma with the testing of staff is that, and I think you sort of shared a lot of this information with me in one of our conversations, is it's very hard to know, is this a false negative? Is it a true positive? When would you test, and how frequently would we have to test to sort of assure? Because one of the things I wonder is, would it be a false sense of confidence that I'm okay if I take the test too soon and I show up negative, and then 4 days later I'm shedding the virus, and in fact I could be infecting people. So I think that's probably why it wasn't something that was recommended or mandated to do, because it could, I'm sure, get extremely cumbersome and pricey to test as often as we would to say that we are sure anybody around you, But I think if people feel sick, just as we've said for our students, we need to stay home, we need to test if we need to. And I think staff needs to know that we don't expect them to work if they really do believe they've been in contact or could be carrying the virus. That would be bad.
I would say that we definitely need to think of those contingency plans sooner than later, because we know that the governor has said that all counties are at a high incident rate now.
Yeah.
So like those cutoffs need to we need to come up with those, now, really. And also, even when we think about maybe not the testing, but I'm back to the temperatures, something, until we can come up with those cutoffs, because we are going to have to come up with something, because as Ms. Moore said, it's not getting any better. We see that it's not getting any better. We know that we're coming up, we have another week to see how this trick or treat shakes out, because we know that it was not canceled. And kids were out. And so we don't know what we're going to be walking into in the next 7 days. And so.
And I'll tell you, one of the things, and like I said in our meeting, we did discuss this already, start to talk about what would that look like. Another thing that has come up on the radar and people have been talking about, we're basically 2 weeks away from the start of our holiday break for Thanksgiving. And then you move from Thanksgiving and it's barely 14 more days before, Christmas break. And then, of course, after that, we will be coming back in January. I know some districts in Northridge, I know is one, but there's some other districts that basically have said, if make it to Thanksgiving break, wait and come back after the holidays, because that way you would, have that time in between. If we were going to do something like that, though, I think for fairness to parents, they would need to know, tomorrow or Monday, to give them 2 weeks to find care for their children over the holiday season. So that is something that has come up, and I know staff has concerns about after Halloween, then after Thanksgiving, and after Christmas. How is that going to look for them? They are concerned about it. So that is something that, like I said, I know some other people some are doing, some are contemplating.
Dr. Cosby, I just want to take this as an opportunity to make my personal sentiments extremely clear. I would be vehemently against mandating teachers to be tested or any conversation that would lean that way. And when the numbers come in, I don't necessarily cringe when they do that. I understand what Ms. Moore was saying, and I agree with her and Ms. Bozeman about the contingency plan, but I would be vehemently against any mandating of testing of teachers within our school districts. I just needed to make sure that we all understood that from my personal perspective.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I think, Ms. Moore, you touched on something I think is a problem. I've noticed it in my workspace too. The ability to enforce and the desire for participants to comply with using PPE. I think there's still a lot of folks who have a kind of a casual attitude about it. For example, I had a conversation with someone at work today, and they have been pretty lax most of the time, but now they're kind of concerned because it has actually afflicted someone in their immediate family. And it's just too bad that for a lot of folks, the general attitude is one of either disbelief or just a refusal to go along because they think it's an inconvenience to have to wear a mask. And I think that's one of the toughest things we're going to run into with this, not just in our school, but around the community and around the state, is that there's still a resistance to doing it. And then, now I'm hearing a phrase coined COVID fatigue, because a lot of people have felt like they were complying, get tired of doing it and that kind of thing. When is this going in? I'm tired of doing it, so I'm not going to do it. And that kind of thing. I think that's a factor that I don't know how we do anything with that other than, I don't know, even just some kind of like a pledge or something that we do or something just to get people in a mindset that you need to wear your PPE, wear it properly and take it seriously. I think that would be, even though it's not a 100% a guarantee anything, I think that's probably the singularly most effective thing that we can do, is that and the washing of hands. That seems to have been since February, March, been the one consistent thing that has been emphasized for us to do. And I think if we really double down on emphasizing that among our students and staff, that might help some.
Additionally, thank you, Mr. Andrews, for sharing. I know in my profession, our team is tested every single day, and that is very difficult. All right. However, it's necessary in the healthcare world to keep people safe and to ensure that they're safe. This is what may come down the road, whether it's mandated or voluntary. It may not be very comfortable, and it may be very difficult for some people. And again, it's case by case. I think Ms. Jeter Freeman said that, people have particular situations which can be handled with their administrator. But just know that we're not just talking about keeping the building safe. We're talking about the entire district. We're talking about every student. We're talking about you, keeping you safe. So all of these things, sometimes when you're working in a pandemic, it's not business as usual. Ms. Jeter Freeman said something about being very conscientious of how people are feeling. I want to thank, I think I saw an email from Dr. Davis on the EPA.
Yes.
Yeah. And I thought that was very, very helpful. And I'm glad that we are extending services to our staff. Additionally, the board is going to have a retreat on the 14th. Part of that retreat is how we can help each other stay healthy. And what that means is keeping our immune systems up, because we all have the potential to be exposed to the virus, period. Okay. For all we know, we may have already been exposed. So what we're going to do is in the event, it's not if we get the virus, it's when we get the virus and how our body responds and what safeguards we can put in place now beyond PPE that might really save us a lot of hardship. So on the 14th, we're going to have Dr. Edwards come in as part of our retreat. Dr. Cosby, if you find this valuable for our district, along the lines of how we can maybe give, folks some peace of mind, on the flip side, holistically, all right, on what we are trying to do as a district, stay healthy, be healthy, stay safe, then this is something that we could see in every building. So again, we'll have it on the 14th at our meeting, and then we'll go from there. Any other comments, board?
If the conversation comes up again in regards to mandating testing for our teachers, then close the district.
Yeah. Mr. Scaris, again, everybody's doing something different. I don't think that's on the table. I think it was just a conversation, a question. I would hate for anybody to mandate a flu shot for me, COVID shot for me, or any of those kind of things. Anyway, let me be careful, okay, politically. But, again, we are just putting out information. And, again, as a district, decisions will be made. I don't think that, everybody has First Amendment right, and people have, objections to other things. We have people who can't wear masks right now in the district. They can't. So they've come up with a solution or an alternative. So it's case by case. It's who wants it. One of the districts I was talking to, the little building wanted it. The teachers wanted it for not just themselves, for each other. So again, it's just an idea. It's something that we're putting out on the table. There's nothing being mandated here at all. I just want to make that really, really clear. It's not even a conversation that we've had as a board, or I don't even think it's the conversation that the superintendent has had with her cabinet or anyone else. But again, we're just sharing ideas or sharing just what other people are doing and what may or may not be working. So, but I appreciate your comment.
Ms. Moore, at your job, you say you all are testing every day?
Yes.
Are you doing the nostril thing every day too?
You know what? I think the saliva is now in place. So there were some things, but guess in the healthcare world, they're doing a lot of things to be careful. Mm-hmm. Okay. They're doing a lot because they're literally hospitals, they're taking care of COVID patients. Mm-hmm. So when you do that, you have to take care of yourself as well. So there's a lot of safeguards. And does anybody, stand in line and say, hey, pick me first? I don't think so. I think it's just, what are we going to do different to be safe and to keep each other safe and to keep our patients safe, our family safe, or whomever. So again, I don't know. That might be something that the buildings talk about independently. And it may not be testing. It may be, I don't know, some personal, professional development on that subject matter. Thank you.
I appreciate the information, and that's all I have. And as I said, we will get that going ASAP. What our contingency would be, I may also be bringing to you guys that idea about, after Thanksgiving, maybe seeing if we're interested in staying out until after the holidays.
Well, if we do that, then does that include after Thanksgiving, which is Christmas, after New Year's, which is in January? Like there's a lot of holidays in there. Okay. So, and then we roll into February, we roll into March, we roll into Memorial Day. I guess what I'm saying is, I think everything is on the table, open for discussion, but it's got to make sense and how we do it. You can't just, one stop shop. You can't just throw something against the wall and say, okay, this is what we're going to do now. What about next month?
Right. Yeah, exactly. But those are holidays that are known for family get-togethers versus, say, Valentine's Day or, those other holidays that come up. So that's why we were giving it some serious consideration because of the way we celebrate those particular holidays. Yeah, not just in general, every holiday we would, feel like it may be worth doing that. So again, I haven't brought it to you yet, but I just wanted, as you said, as an option on the table.
Yeah, and we've got some really good conversation and dialogue around this subject, so that's good. Anything else, board? Then we're gonna move on. Superintendent, we kind of stopped after item A, but item B is board meetings, virtual and in person, and blended. And this is an open board discussion. One of the conversations, and I think Mr. Scarishaw and I had this conversation a while ago, and I think you even mentioned it at a board meeting, a previous board meeting, and opened up the conversation. One of the things that I like to do is mirror the district. Our district is in a blended model. I believe that we can be in a blended model. And I say that because we have 2 meetings a month. Right now, we're virtual. There's no reason that we can't do the regular session in person. One of the reasons I really, truly favor the virtual at this time, I checked the stats, and in the last 4 months, we've had over 880 views. That's a lot of engagement. I've been on the board for 15 years. I don't think we've had 880 engagements for the board as a whole over a number of years. So that's tremendous. So, and there's ways we can do things that would work even in the boardroom. So that's one of the items I wanted to hold the board on, if that is something that you guys would consider. Or do you have any other items?
I will say this. Yeah, I did bring that up at a board meeting, but I want us to be clear that only the students are blended. Our teachers and our staff are in the buildings every day. And I think from a board's perspective, and this is only my opinion, that it shows a lack of leadership on behalf of the board to continue to even hold one virtual meeting per month when our teachers and our administrators and our staff and our bus drivers and our janitors are in the buildings every day. I think we need to be at our board meetings sitting at the dais, because it shows the type of leadership I think that we ought to convey in a time like this. So I don't necessarily think we need to have any virtual meetings from here on out, not for as long as the district is open and we have staff inside the buildings.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Scaris. Any other comments?
I don't have any problem with having our meetings in person. I think the last one that we did, we were able to very easily and very successfully do the appropriate distancing and that kind of thing. So I don't think it would be a critical factor for us not to be able to meet in person. As long as we're able to do that, and, PPE.
Thank you.
I agree. Our teachers are back, and they're back 5 days a week, so I don't have a problem. And I agree we should meet in person because our staff are coming in every day. So, yeah, I'm in favor of meeting in person. I think the only time we would have a concern is if we knowingly had a lot of people that would be coming to a board meeting, but we haven't had that. There's maybe 10 of us, 12 with the administrators, so we can definitely social distance and meet in person.
Thank you, Ms. Sheeta.
I have no problem meeting in person. I do hate to see the engagement suffer if that's what we would be compromising by having in person. I have no problem meeting in person, though, we would lose that, but I have no problem.
Well, interesting enough, is Luke with us? Luke, our tech person, are you here, Luke?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Okay.
I was actually texting Marlon when you said that.
Okay, and the reason I'm asking is because it's the pleasure of the board to meet in person. And I want to know if we have the capability of still, the way that this looks right now, and having external viewers still be able to see this the way that it is, but we are on the dais, so that we don't lose one or the other. We can be in person twice a month, and we still can have the engagement, so we don't lose that. And I say that because I know what the system we have in place right now, we look like little tiny ants. You can't tell who's speaking. It's almost painstaking to watch if you look at what we've done in the past. So do you think that maybe we have some technology that can accommodate that?
Yes, ma'am, we do.
Okay.
Actually, sorry, my camera is way bad there. Yeah, the cameras that are on your Chromebooks can show you. That's absolutely possible. And so we can have this board meeting in person. And if there was somebody not able to be there, they could sit at home and we would see them just the same as you're seeing us.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I mean, why not use the technology? We have it. We truly can have it all. We can be in person and not lose our engagement. So if we could start working on that for our next meeting, that would be fabulous. And then moving forward, since it is the pleasure of the board, we will have in-person meetings. Okay, any questions or comments? Thank you. Moving on, supplementals FY 2020, item C. Who is that, Ms. Allen? Or is that who's supplementals FY 22? I don't know who put that on there on the agenda.
Not.
Okay. Well, the only thing that I would say for that particular topic is we as a board in our retreat, we need to look at all our supplementals, okay, for school year 2020, 21, 22. We just need to make sure that the supplementals that we currently have, that if there's something that we can add to it, like coding, okay, I know Ms. Jeter Freeman is always really stressing that, then that can happen. In addition to that, I want to be very mindful that we went forward with the supplementals, but the board is still looking for a report on how things are going, the number of participants and the outcomes.
I think that may be something you will want to look at in the spring after you've got the experience of this year behind you, so that you have the data that the board can consider in making those decisions for next year.
Yeah, and even ongoing. I mean, honestly, here's what happens, frankly. Everything is wait till this time, and what happens, we don't ever get back to it. I'm just going to be really honest. It doesn't come back for one reason or another. I don't know what's going on in the district. I just want to keep it in the forefront of everybody's minds.
Yeah, we don't have to wait until the spring to get those reports. I mean, if we want to know how it's going tomorrow, being that we've already approved those, I think that's what she's saying. Is that correct, Ms. Moore?
Yeah, I'm talking, yes, ongoing. Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Scarce. Item D, I already mentioned our board retreat on the 14th of this month. We're going to start at 8:30. And it'll start with, and it'll be in person. All right. And it'll start with Miss Allen with our 5-year forecast. Going to talk about that for probably about 60 to 90 minutes, answering questions. We're going to look at where we're going and the direction. We're going to look at our bottom line and school funding. I know the finance committee is really busy working with Miss Allen, and I know there's a lot of discussion around money. So we're going to be having that on Saturday. Anybody want to comment on that based on where the district is? I know, Mr. Scaris, you're always talking about, what's important and what we can afford based on how schools are going to be funded and where monies and dollars are going to come from.
Just looking forward to the 5-year forecast.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's see, next item. Yep. Treasurer's comments.
Yes, I just wanted to, for everybody, of course, we're keeping Kim Tidd in our prayers as she lost her mother this past week. And the other thing I wanted to just say, I got a very disturbing text just recently on just keeping safe. There is a potential threat to our young men and our Black men in general in terms of their safety. So as a mother of 2 African-American males, I am very concerned about that threat, and I think I'm just saying for everyone to be safe. That's all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Allen. Superintendent comments?
Yes, I would like to say what Mr. Andrews typically says, so I will say it first and he can say it again. Thank you for the robust conversations tonight. They were good. I would also like to share with you that, and I would like to thank my team. They did a great job from the middle school. We're also going to be involved in a turkey dinner takeaway, they call it. A turkey dinner takeaway is going to happen November 25th from 9 to 12. We are working with the City of Trotwood, City of Dayton, University of Dayton, and quite a few other nonprofits across the Miami Valley. We're going to start advertising that tomorrow, but I wanted to share it with you all first. It is free to the public, and all we're providing is space. They're going to use the high school stadium parking lot. So it's literally a drive-through, pick up a frozen meal and take it away. But I just wanted to go on and get that out there because that's pretty exciting for, our families. That's all I have.
Thank you, Dr. Cosby. Board comments. Mr. Andrews, please.
Well, I can't make my usual comment, so I will move forward. I am looking forward to our retreat. We've got some interesting items on the table to look at. Outside of that, I'm pretty relieved with, even though we're starting to have some cases of COVID infections within our Trotwood family. We don't seem to be just running rampant with it. So we must be doing some things correctly. And so it's encouraging to see we're getting a few here, a few there. And then I'm looking around, I'm talking to my colleagues at work who live in other districts, and they're getting hit a lot more severely in many cases than we are. So I would like to congratulate all of our staff in terms of being in there every day and working with it. And then in terms of our folks who are in charge of keeping the buildings safe and clean for everyone, really like to commend them. I think we've gotten back, from all accounts I've heard from people, it's been a pretty smooth transition, and most people are pretty satisfied in terms of feeling fairly comfortable with what's going on. It's not perfect, but feeling fairly comfortable. And as we feel our way like everybody else is, I think we're learning as we go and getting some valuable lessons.
Thank you, Mr. Andrews. I appreciate your comments. Mr. Scaris, please.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I did have the opportunity to visit the schools on the first day of in-person learning, And just as I thought, we're doing it better than anybody else around us. So kudos to the superintendent and your staff and the teachers and everybody. Thank you very much. May the Lord richly bless all of you.
Thank you, Mr. Scares. We appreciate that. Ms. Judah Freeman.
I'd just like to thank our teachers and staff for welcoming our students back. I think they thoroughly enjoyed seeing them after seeing them on video for so long. And just a big gratitude of thanks for all that the Trotwood staff and especially the teachers are doing.
Thank you, Ms. Judah Freeman. Appreciate your comments. Vice President Bozeman?
Yes, as always, everyone said everything so eloquently before me, so ditto to all of that. The only thing I want to add is that I did attend the Zoom parent-teacher conferences. Best thing ever. I don't think I ever want to go back to anything other than that. I love my Zoom parent-teacher conferences. I was able to schedule them and get through them and never leave for the comfort of my home. I didn't have to fight anybody for a parking space. So yes, I loved it. So again, kudos to everyone out there. You guys do it better than anyone else. And we're going to continue to move forward, onward and upward.
Thank you. Okay, you think you got it hard. I'm last. There's nothing to say, okay? Because everybody's already said it all. So I will say thank you, each and every one of you, and for what you do every single day. We know it's not easy. We know there are some days that are worse than others, but there are also some days that are better than others. We just want you to know how much we appreciate you. I also want you to rest assured that we are constantly looking at how we can tweak everything that we're doing. That's why we talked about a contingency plan. We also are looking at how we can best serve our kids to make sure that they get not only what they deserve, but what is, they're worthy and deserving of, which is a solid education. We are serious about keeping people safe. That is not just talk. That is our deepest belief in what we're going to do in this district. Additionally, Superintendent, I want to thank you for the putting together the building reports that we will be seeing more and more of. I think that's important to keep everybody in the loop. I want to also thank you for the communications that are going out. But I've seen more now than ever, and they're timely, and that's everything. So I want to say thank you and your team for that. That's pretty much it for me, because y'all already said everything else. But I do need a motion to move into executive session to consider the employment of a public employee pursuant to Board of Education Policy 0166 and ORC 12122. May I have a motion? I have a motion in a second. Any questions? Being none, Ms. Collins, you call the roll.
I'm sorry, who motioned? Mrs. Bozeman?
Yes.
Second, Mr. Andrews?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, we're ready?
Yes.
Okay, Mrs. Bozeman?
Yes.
Mr. Andrews?
Yes.
Mr. Scared?
Mr. Scared? Okay. Maybe he dropped off. We'll go on this one.
Mrs. Peter Freeman?
Yes.
And Ms. Moore?
Yes. Motion passes. We will now turn into executive session at 6:59 p.m. To consider employment of a public employee. I want to say thank you for everybody that's this evening. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you. So board, we will adjourn until